Okay, that's great. Well, guys, so today we're going to be working our second class of the week, number three. Ready? So the week number three started on Tuesday, last Tuesday, when we started working about communication, right? And then we start talking about like, okay, what is typical to talk about in your family? Is it normally to gossip or is not normal? And then we describe two different ways to do it in gerunds, infinitive, like talking about these typical stories, or it is typical to talk about this kind of story, you know? So we have the two options there. And also we describe a little bit of the gossiping, reporting what other people said. So that was like the second part. Today we're going to continue. We're going to continue on doing that. Ready? We're going to talk about communication one more time, but this time we're going to focus in this part of the week. It's tell it right, you know? Tell, it's made reference to stories usually. When we use the word tell, it's because there is some information that we want to transmit to other people. In this case, our family, right? We're going to start the class today with a reading. It's a simple reading, a little bit long, I mean, longer than usual, but it's easy. Ready? So, Mr. Brian, help me to start with the first part from here until the first stop. Go ahead, my friend.
It all started a couple of weeks ago when some scientists from the east of New Zealand found a new discovery related to the field of genetics while they were studying a new piece of bone from a caveman fossil.
Muy bien, caveman fossil. Very good. So, all what we started here is a piece of a story. It's an anecdote. Ready? Could be a piece of news that we listen in the broadcast, you know, like in Caracol or in any of those broadcasts, and we listen the news, then we try to tell it to other family. Ready? Or could be a normal anecdote, no, like no, imagine that this happened to me the last week while I was doing that, right? So we're going to notice first that we have different tenses. Ready? So when we have simple past, they say a couple of weeks ago when a group of scientists, it's pronounced as scientists, right, from the ICT of New Zealand found a new discovery related to the field of genetics while, what is the meaning of while? Do you remember what is the meaning of while?
Mientras,
Mientras, very good. So also with this connector, se me olvidó poner el moradito, but it's also in purple because it's a connector, right? So in that case, to the field of genetics, while they were studying a new piece of bone, right? So it's the beginning of a piece of news. Okay, ready? Christian, my friend, help me with the second part until the, well, wait, because this is a little bit longer. Here until the semicolon, please. No more.
they found that your ancestors have a lot to do with what your feeding habits develop.
Exactly. So they found, one more time, we find the verb find in past. So we said they found that your ancestors have a lot to do. What is the expression have to do when they say I have nothing to do, or in this case, I have a lot to do?
Tener mucho que hacer.
Literalmente es tener mucho que hacer, pero en este caso cuando digo no, I don't have anything to do with that, it's like tener que ver con algo, o sea, está relacionado. For example, they found that your ancestors have a lot to do with, como que tiene mucho que ver con, right? With the way that your feeding habits develop. What is the meaning of feeding? Feeding. ¿A qué le suena feeding? No? Bueno, feeding, feed, it's the verb alimentar o alimentarse. Ready? So feeding, it means alimentación. Ready? So in that case, they say that, well, the ancestors of the people are related to the way that they feed. Yeah, like if we are carnivores or if we are herbivores or whatever, whatever. No, muy bien, that's great. Mrs. Daniela, help me to the second expert from here until the next stop.
They have been running a lot of tests in order to determine if it is only related to the mole or both parts of your bloodline.
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 Bloodline. Very. So that case, they say they have been running a lot of tests in order to determine if it is only related to the male or both parts of your bloodline, right? Bloodline, it means like línea sanguínea, so like your family in general terms, right? But then in this case, they say they have been running. It means that the news or the story is not completely finished. In the present, they continue to do some studies. So that's why we use present perfect continuous, no? So they have been running a lot of tests in order to determine ta 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 ta. Ready? Hmm? And Yesid, my friend, help me to finish the last part. The last part from here to here.
Eh, what do you need to know is that other teams have failed to understand the nature of the feeding heritage.
Heritage. Maybe what's the meaning of heritage? Do you remember what is the meaning of heritage?
Mm, Como algo que se tiene,
Heritage it means herencia, ¿no? So in that case, feeding heritage is like herencia alimenticia, right? So guys, in that case, it's a big story. It's a really long story, no? So, and here they say, hey, what you need to know is that other teams, otra vez, have failed. Simple, present perfect, simple, because the action is not finished. Many people have studied that, but many people also have failed, right? So that's why this study is so important, blah, blah, blah. Independent of the information that we have here, yes, we have always the same way to tell a story. Yes, when we tell a story, normally we tell it chronologically. What is the meaning of chronologically? Chronologically. What is the meaning of that?
Cronológicamente,
Cronológicamente, of course. And what is the meaning of chronologicamente? What is the meaning of that, Danny? Ahora sí, ya, now what? Chronologically, it's what? I mean, chronologicamente, but what is the meaning of that?
ponerle como un orden a las cosas. ¿Qué pasó primero?
Exactamente, en orden del tiempo. ¿Listo? Chrono, you know, it comes from time. So chronologically, it means according to the order that the actions happened. ¿Cierto? Entonces, esto pasó primero, then it happened after, then it happened after, then it happened after, then it happened after. ¿Cierto? Normally, this is the way in which we tell a story. Normalmente este es el camino en el que contamos una historia. ¿Cierto? En orden cronológico. Sometimes we go back into the details. Algunas veces nos devolvemos en los detalles. Ready? Other times we mention specific details about some specific moments. Other moments, other times, not always, but sometimes we mention longer actions, actions that were transversal to all the situation, acciones que fueron transversales a toda la situación, algo que estuvo pasando durante todo el tiempo. Ready? So, but normally, la mayoría del tiempo, we tell a chronological. Usamos el orden cronológico para contar una historia. And this is the way that we do it here, ¿no? So in that case, they say, bueno, it all started. Todo comenzó, yes? A couple of weeks ago, y entonces empiezan a contar what happened, what happened, what happened, y de pronto qué ha estado pasando, y de pronto qué ha sucedido, and that's it. Yeah, but most of the time we use the simple past. Ready? Entonces, si ustedes se fijan acá, esta historia tiene varias cositas, right? For example, in red, en rojo, tenemos todos los tiempos. Simple past, past continuous, present perfect continuous, present perfect, ¿cierto? Because it's a story, so we have to mention different tenses, right? In purple, in purple, we have other resources which are connectors, right? Connectors for giving order to the events. Yes, Conectores que me ayudan a darle orden a los eventos. Ejemplo, el primero pues es muy claro, todo comenzó, o sea, ok, de ahí empezamos, ¿cierto? Cuando menciona el contexto, while menciona lo que estaba sucediendo, right? And so on, yes? Now at the end in green, we have other type of connector. Well, this is more like an expression. This expression, which is going to tell me that, hey, pilas, pero necesitas saber qué, ¿cierto? And then today we are going to see many different expressions like that. So nos vamos a enfocar en eso, en cómo contar una historia bien, bien, bien. Es como más bien un repaso de cómo contar la historia que ya hemos visto, pero un poquito más allá, con conectores, con los tiempos, cha, cha, cha. ¿Vale? ¿Listo? So, the first part that we have to check are the tenses. The tenses, it means los tiempos, right? And when we talk about the tenses, well, the first part, it's talking about the past continuous and simple past. Yes. Remembering that the past continuous, which is was and ing, ¿cierto? It's used for talking about the general context, right? Contexto general, ¿qué estaba sucediendo? I was sleeping. They were working in a study of blah, blah, blah. They were doing no sé qué. We were traveling in Europe. We were shopping in the supermarket, whatever. Yes, talking about the context, what was happening. Ready? Or sometimes it's just talking about longer actions, long actions. Dos acciones o una acción larga en el contexto. So, no sé, I was doing ta 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 in the middle of the action. Yes, I was cooking in the middle of the action when other thing happened. Yes, simultaneous actions. For example, my mother was working while I was cooking. It's fine, no? So those are the two options that we have for the past continuous. The simple past, on the other hand, it's talking about the next action. So when we talk about the chronological order, the simple past is probably the most important one because it's going to tell me the next action. So it helps me to the chronological order, me ayuda con el orden cronológico de la historia, ¿cierto? Lo que pasó después, right? Sorry. So lo que pasó después. For that reason, simple past is the most important. Por eso el simple past es tal vez el tiempo, pues digamos, más usado en contar la historia, ¿cierto? Y encontraron, hicieron, ta, 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 no sé qué. So in that case, yes, the simple past is going to be the most important, right? The past continuous probablemente lo uso al comienzo, maybe in the middle, to talk about the context, and that's it. But the simple past, it's all the time telling me what happened next. Ready? Ahora ya tenemos el contexto, ya tenemos la acción siguiente. Now we have to go back in the story. What happened when we go back in the story? That we have to use the past perfect. ¿Cierto? The past perfect here. So the past perfect, which is created with had and the verb in past participle, it means like había o habíamos, and then the verb in past participle is used for talking about a previous action in the past. Si el simple past es para la acción siguiente, el past perfect es para la acción anterior, una acción previa, ¿right? Que había sucedido. Simple past, como ya lo dijimos, es para la acción siguiente. ¿Ready? Entonces, no sé, no, yeah, my family found a great hotel because before that they had looked for many options or they had researched many different web pages, no? Something that had happened before. That's the use of the past perfect. ¿Mm? So, hasta aquí, los tres pasados. Simple past, past continuous, and past perfect. All of them with a specific use, right? Simple. But the stories, they don't usually finish there. No, they have usually some other details, especially when they are news, that they continue into the present. No, so when we talk about that something continues into the present, we gotta work with the present perfect, whether it's present perfect simple or present perfect continuous, right? Now, what's the difference between the present perfect simple and continuous? Well, it's really simple. The present perfect simple, it's mentioning an action that has happened, but not continuously, interrupted, like many times, one time in 1 month, the other one later, the other one later. And then I said, I have worked in many places. but it's not a continuous action. Yeah, it's an action that I have done many times, that probably I will do again. It's a possibility, but it's not a specific, like, or specifically, it doesn't have like a continuous during all the time, right? With what that is what happened with the present perfect continuous. It's an action that started in the past, continues into the present, but continuously, it never stopped. So in that case, I said, I have been working here for 3 years, for example, right? But in that case, it never stopped. The action started 3 years ago, let's say 2021 is an example, and continuously, yes, continuously, I have been working without stopping until now, 2024. Yes. So guys, in that case, that is the difference between the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. In the example of the story, in the example of the piece of news, right? We saw it clearly. It says they have been running a lot of tests because they haven't stopped. Since they found the fossil, they have been running a lot of tests continuously, no? But on the other one, it says other teams have failed to understand. Not continuously, because one team tried to study like 3 years ago, other like 10 years ago, the other one was the last year. So they were not actions continuous. So that's why we use present perfect simple. Then the present perfect continuous, it's a little bit different because, it is continuous, right? Guys, how do we form the present perfect continuous? Well, it's super simple. Here with the present perfect continuous, we're going to have the three tenses, the three forms as usual, and we are going to have a combination which is really important. It's have or has. Like, let's change the color. Have or has the auxiliary, right? Then the verb being, and then the verb in ing. He estado haciendo, hemos estado viajando. Something that is from the past to the present, but continues, right? If it's negative, the negation, it's going to go right here after the not, right here. Ready? I have not been working. I have not been studying. I have not been, easy. And if it's a question, the have, it's going to change positions with the subject, and it's going to go before the subject. So in that case, we would have the have before, yes, the have before, and then the subject. Example, have you been, say, working lately? It's an example, right? Guys, we have in this case expressions of time, like for example, recently or lately. What is the meaning of lately?
Últimamente.
Últimamente, very good. O sea, recently, ready? Because it's from the past, in the latest times, ready? Until now, until the present, right? So, as I said before, it's used to express long actions that started in the past. Is used for expressing actions that have clear evidence or results now. No? Yes. Sorry. Express shorter situations that they are usually temporary. Ready? Like for example, I have been studying the whole week for the final test, but it's temporary. You are not going to do it anymore. So basically, that's the use of the present perfect continuous. So now, in complement to the simple past, to the past continuous, to the past perfect, we have the present perfect simple and the present perfect continuous. ¿Qué tal, guys? How do you feel? Questions hasta ahí, difficulties con alguno de los tiempos, alguno que no entiendan. Pero te digan, profe, no, este me confunde, este tiempo no es muy claro. Tal vez, maybe, or it's clear. No? All good? ¿Todo bien? No, no problem?
It's clear, teacher.
Listo, very good, excellent. Entonces, es tener mucho cuidado al momento de contar una historia para saber qué tiempo debo usar, ¿cierto? Si debo usar un pasado, si debo usar un present perfect, tener mucho cuidado cuál es mi intención. Yo quiero contar algo largo, algo en orden, algo en desorden, ¿right? Entonces, pero el tiempo no lo es todo. El tiempo es, digamos que el 80%, pero a eso debo darle más ayuda, más contexto. How do you do that? Bueno, muy simple, very simple. We're going to try to first organize everything into a timeline, ¿cierto? Lo normal es que tratemos de organizar todo en una línea del tiempo, right? For example, here we have the story of the COVID in Colombia, right? The first part, it was that the COVID was discovered. That was into, sorry, it was in 2019, in December of 2019. Then we said that the COVID had arrived to Colombia. That was in 2020. Ready? Then, for example, in my case, my salary came down. That was also in April of 2020. Yes. And then the people have been working, they discovered or they started to use the home office, ready? And since that moment, since that moment, the people have been working from home, no? So from 2020 and now we're in 2024 and we continue in the same. And also that we just have come back to normal like 2 years ago, and that the merchants have tried to jump back. No? Jump back is like recover, como recuperarse, since that moment, no? So they were affected, so since that moment they have tried to jump back, not continuously, but in different tries, unas personas aquí, otras aquí, otras aquí, so that's why we use present perfect. Organize the story in a timeline, it's going to allow me to see the events more clearly. Me va a permitir ver, digamos que la serie de eventos más claramente, para yo saber si debo usar simple past o si es una acción like, transversal, past continuous, o si me estoy devolviendo, ¿no? So, a past perfect. Ready? Por ejemplo, in that case, I said, bueno, the COVID arrived to Colombia, perdón, the COVID was discovered in China in 1999, then later the COVID arrived to Colombia. No had arrived, sino arrived, porque voy en orden cronológico, simple past, ¿cierto? Pero si yo voy a enfatizarlo de otra manera, I can say the COVID was discovered in China. And in April, my salary came down because the COVID had arrived to Colombia. ¿Ya? Misma idea, diferente organización. Debo reorganizar los tiempos que voy a usar. Ya no es simple past, sino ya es simple past, past perfect. ¿Cierto? Entonces, tengo que tener cuidado cómo quiero contar mi historia. Ready? Bueno, now, also that was the first step. Now, the other step is that I have to use the time expressions, right? We have two different types of connectors. The first one are time adverbs. Literally, they are discussing about time, yes? Expressions for talking about what happened after a story. So we have the next day, the next week, the next moment, later, yes, after, we have afterwards, yeah. All of these adverbs are going to tell me like, bueno, y después de eso, ¿cierto? Other thing happened. Normalmente lo uso con simple past, que estoy hablando de lo siguiente, la siguiente acción. Como es en orden cronológico, uso simple past, ¿cierto? Entonces, bueno, sí, the COVID arrived to Colombia, ta, ta, ta. Later, the people started to work and study online, no sé qué, ta, 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 right? So, it's going to help me all of this, the next, later, afterwards, yes? The following, it's also possible, like the following week, or the following year, or the following something, yes? It's going to help me to describe what happened after. Ready? So in that case, those are usually the next action that we're going to include is with simple past because it's the next action. On the other hand, we have simultaneous actions. Simultaneous actions. The ones are simultaneous. Simultaneous. It means two actions at the same time, right? They can be used with past continuous or simple past. Yeah. And they can use expressions like, for example, when, as soon as, the moment. I can use once, I can use while, ¿cierto? I can use many other options in order to talk about two simultaneous actions. Depending if the actions are long or short, I'm going to use past continuous or simple past, right? For example, in that case, no sé, once I got to work, my boss asked to speak with me. Como son acciones cortas, llegar al trabajo y pedir hablar con alguien, simple past. Pero si lo hiciera con acciones largas, past continuous, ¿cierto? Entonces, for example, as soon as I was cooking, my sister was chatting on her phone. Acciones largas, ya en ese caso uso past continuous. ¿Listo? Ready? Pero son acciones simultáneas. And finally, we have adverbs of time for describing actions before. Okay? Up until then, hasta ese momento, before that, antes de eso, solo before, until that time, que es lo mismo que up until then, como hasta ese entonces, ¿cierto? Normalmente, como son adverbios que entregan información previa, voy a usar el past perfect, ¿cierto? Past perfect. So, up until then, I had never lost anything important. Before that, I had never lost anything important. Yes. Also, we can also use by that time, o en ese momento, o para ese momento, by that time. Ready? Usually with past perfect because we're talking about actions that happened before. ¿Listo? Ready? Entonces, guys, in that case, it's very simple. Los adverbios son muy sencillos de usar, right? Ya saben que podemos usar, como siempre, al inicio de la oración, el conector, oración uno y oración 2, o si quieren hacerlo de otra forma, oración uno, conector, oración 2. Ready? For introducing the information. So I can say, for example, say just before that, before my first job, I had never had a salary, for example. Or I have never had a salary before my first job. It's a possibility. Yes. Depending as you prefer, you can connect it in both ways. Okay. Ready? Of course, that the adverb that I'm going to use depends on my intention, right? Depends on my intention because the same. If I want to go after, si quiero continuar el orden cronológico, I use this one. If maybe I want to mention a detail before, de pronto quiero mencionar un detalle anterior, before, right? Maybe I want to mention two actions at the same time. Entonces, depende de mi intención, voy a usar un adverbio bueno. ¿Listo? And finally, la otra forma, yes, the other resource are the expressions of order. Yes. Estas expresiones, perdón, no son adverbios, son expresiones completas, ¿cierto? Pero me ayudan a lo mismo, es a ordenar los datos o los detalles de una historia. Llámese noticia, llámese anécdota, llámese chisme, whatever, it's going to be organizing the events of or the events of an story. In this case, I am going to have three different kinds of connectors, right? The first one is for starting the story. It means para comenzar una historia. The other one, of course, is for finishing or closing a story. Para finalizar o para cerrar, ¿cierto? Finishing or closing the story. And finally, we are going to have another other connectors for connecting or yes, continuing, connecting details, ¿cierto? O including more details. Now, those connecting details can be forward, o sea, detalles hacia como en orden cronológico, o backwards, es decir, que se devuelve, ¿cierto? O sea, como información complementaria, pero hacia atrás en la historia. ¿Ready? Entonces tengo tres tipos de conectores. ¿Ok? We're going to read them. Vamos a entenderlas y ustedes me dicen, ¿para qué sirve? It's for continuing, for finishing, or for starting the story. Ready? The first expression, it's I will never forget the time. It means Nunca olvidaré la vez. ¿Cierto? What is the use of that expression?
Starting.
Starting, of course, claro que sí. Entonces, it's number one. For starting, para iniciar la historia, ¿cierto? Yo nunca olvidaré la vez que, yes. Number two, Mrs. Danny, read the expression and tell me what is the use.
The thing you have to know is connecting.
Muy bien, de connecting para ambas formas, forward y backwards, ¿ready? Entonces, no, lo que tienes que saber es que, y ya voy a, si uso simple past, pues es siguiente acción. Si uso past perfect, pues es la acción previa, ¿cierto? Incluso en el ejemplo de la historia lo usamos con presente perfecto, ¿cierto? The thing you, or what you need to know, or the thing that you need to know is that other teams have failed to understand you. Entonces, con cualquier tiempo se puede usar. ¿Listo? Muy bien. Mr. Christian, number three, my friend.
It all started when, and that is starting.
Of course, no, it has the verb in the same. So, starting. It all started when my mother called me, blah, blah, blah. It all started when the government did blah, 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 no sé qué, whatever. Right? Mr. Brian, number four. What do you think? Que tiene problemas con el micrófono, but bueno, anyway. What happened was, what do you think, guys? What happened was that blah, blah, blah.
Connecting.
Yeah, it's connecting, usually backwards or sometimes starting, depending the person, but normally connecting like, bueno, I just told you something, but what happened was that blah, blah, blah. It's like explaining what happened in the story. Ready? So let's put it to, muy bien. Jessit, number five.
I forgot to mention that is connecting.
Connecting, very good, excellent. I forgot to mention that it's something when you were going to go back. I forgot to mention that the person had visited blah blah blah, okay, whatever, right? Going back in the story. So it's for connect. Muy bien. Then we have meanwhile. Meanwhile, it means also similar to while. So it's for talking about two simultaneous actions. Connecting story. Ready? Danny, number, well, the next one.
And the end, finishing.
Finishing, of course, in the end. So that's okay. And that is the last part. Muy bien, Chris. Number next.
That reminds me of when is connecting.
Connecting backwards, no? So in that case, sometimes it's also usually to change the story, no? For example, I'm telling you something. I said, yes, no, my brother, my younger brother did something bad to me, whatever. And then you said, teacher, that reminds me of when, and then you start your own story. So it can be connecting a story in the same story or changing from one to the other, no? Could be also. Brian, no te escuchamos, my friend. No, creo que se te dañó el micrófono. Bueno, no problem, tranqui, no problem. The next thing we knew, of course, is for connecting, is the next thing, so it's going forward, ¿no? O sea, para conectar la historia hacia adelante, ¿cierto? Entonces, lo siguiente que supimos fue que, bueno, later on, exactly the same, ¿no? So, for connecting the story forward, okay? Jessit, the next one, my friend, to make a long story short. That one is important.
To make a long story short, Is a connecting.
Is could be connecting, but normally when we say to make a long story short, es para no hacerle la historia corta, para hacer, perdón, para no hacerle la historia larga. Significa finishing the story. Como que
Okay.
con esa expresión vas a empezar el fin de la historia. Pues to make a long
Yeah.
story short, everything finished, blah, 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 right? So it's for closing or for finishing the story. ¿Listo?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, very good. Now then we have, I have got to tell you about, it's of course starting the story. Aquí te tengo que contar, I have got to tell you about starting the story, yes. The other thing is, of course, it's the other thing, so connecting the story. And finally, so finally, of course, closing the story or finishing the story. Ready? Guys, these expressions are going to be included in the middle of the story, and that they are going to help me to contextualize the story, to know, oh, okay, well, okay, he's going to continue with the story, continue. Or, oh, okay, no, he's going to have a new story for me. So, yes. Or, okay, finally, he's going to finish the story. So he's closing the story. Yeah. Okay, no, finally, no sé qué. Yes, so it's going to help me to contextualize that. As you can see, they are not used all the time. No, of course not. They are not used all the time. They are used simply when it's necessary. For example, here, it all started when, the last one. What you need to know is, and that's it. Okay, maybe here I missed some talking about the end. Like, to make a long story short, could be another possibility. Ready? But they are used in specific parts of the story in order to give order to the events. Ready? Sometimes I use the expression complete, sometimes I use the time adverbs. When, while, meanwhile, all of them. ¿Listo? Guys, hasta ahí. Questions. Yo sé que es mucha información, que los tiempos, que los conectores, bla, bla, bla. Pero, ¿qué tal? Questions, difficulties, problems.
No, teacher, it's clear.
Very good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, guys. Now, if everything is great, everything is clear. Oh, well, here I have like a summary of the different types of connectors. Time adverbs, until, by the time, once, the moment, no sé qué. Sequencers, to begin with, following this, right after, before, finally. Other different types of connectors like summary, to sum up, to make a long story short, to conclude in short, like a summary of these connectors. And also certainty linking words, conectores de certeza. Definitely, obviously, undoubtedly, surely, possibly, probably, all of them are also going to connect it or help me to connect the story. ¿Listo? Entonces, in that case, we're going to imagine one anecdote of the family. Ready? Recuerden, lo pueden usar para contar historias de las noticias, para contar anécdotas, para contar whatever that you imagine, right? So, for example, I am going to tell you a story. So it's just, okay, I want to start like, okay, got, I have got to tell you about the time when my sister, but it's an example, I don't have sister, but it's an example. When my sister, no sé, broke her arm. Hmm? That's when that part, I already gave like a general context, no? So then I say, okay, what you need to know, what you need to know is that she was a hyperactive little girl. Pardon, little girl. Simple past. What you need to know is that she was a hyperactive little girl and she was playing in the playground. What is the meaning of playground, guys? In the playground. ¿Qué será playground?
¿Un patio de juegos?
en el parque, pues, ¿cierto? En el parque, en the playground. Que the swings, que the slides, all of them, right? Entonces, muy bien. And she was playing in the playground. Ya en este caso no usé simple past, sino past continuous para describir el contexto general. ¿Qué estaba pasando? Ah, que estaba la niña jugando en el parque, right? Entonces, ok, bueno, hasta ahí, perfecto. Recuerden que en inglés uso muchos más puntos que comas, right? No voy a tener tantas ideas coordinadas, sino más bien ideas separadas. Entonces, en that case, pues conectadas pero separadas, right? Con puntos, right? So I have got to tell you about the time when she broke the arm. What you need to know is that she was hyperactive little girl and she was playing in the playground. Yes. Once she fell off the monkey bars. What are monkey bars? Oh my God, se me olvidan todas las palabras. Monkey bars, ¿qué será eso?
Yo creo que es como pasamanos.
Muy bien, Christian, excelente. Las pasamanos. Ready? Entonces, once that she fell off the monkey bars, coma, yes, ya usando once para escribir dos cosas que pasaron al tiempo, ¿cierto? Once she fell off the monkey bars, my mom ran to help her. But my sister had already broken her wrist. By that moment. What is the meaning of wrist? It's a part of the body, but which part of the body is that?
La muñeca.
La muñeca, muy bien, very good. So, my sister had already broken her wrist by that moment. Hasta aquí ya usé tres tiempos diferentes, ¿cierto? Sí, ok, simple past, right? Past continuous, vuelve y juega que si continúo con la historia en el orden cronológico, sigo con simple past, ¿cierto? Simple past, right? Y aquí me quiero devolver un poquito, entonces, bueno, no, cuando mi mamá llegó, ya se había roto su muñeca, so had already broken, right? Y así puedo seguir, guys, contando los detalles normalmente con simple past, ¿cierto? De vez en cuando usando uno que otro tiempo. Past continuous, past present perfect continuous, dependiendo, ¿cierto? Y conectando esas ideas con ya sean adverbios o expresiones completas, ¿cierto? Then I can introduce, for example, eh, no sé, let's use another different expression. For example, a ver, vamos a buscarla por acá. Exactly. And in the end, might be, could be, yes. So I can also use it, or later on, yes. Or you could use since that moment. Oh, sorry. Since that moment, ¿cierto? Claro, si uso since that moment significa que es algo que desde ese momento hasta ahora. Probablemente cuando uso since voy a usar un tiempo perfecto, llámese present perfect simple o present perfect continuous, ¿cierto? Since that moment, my sister has been feeling terrible pains when it's cold, right? So I don't know, let's say, to make a long story short, let's close it like that. To make a long story short, my mom never let us play in the monkey bars again. That's it, no? So that's like the end of the story. I was telling like, okay, para no hacer el cuento largo, my mom never let us play in the monkey bars again, and then I closed the anime. ¿Listo? Entonces, es un proceso simple en cuanto a estructuración. Idea, conector, idea, conector, idea, conector. ¿Sí? ¿Ready? Ahora, no es tan simple en cuanto a tiempos y vocabulario. ¿Sí? En ese caso sí requiere de mucha práctica de su parte. ¿Listo? ¿Por qué? Porque requiere los tiempos en pasado, los verbos en pasado, el conector correcto, el vocabulario correcto acerca de lo que quiero contar. ¿Ready? Entonces, guys, it's a really important way, or it's really important that you practice many times telling stories to yourself, a ustedes mismos, right? So, using the expressions, using the adverbs of time, ¿Listo? Digamos que no les dejo como que lo hagan ya, porque pues es un trabajo un poquito lento, ¿right? Mientras que uno piensa, ¿y qué más digo? ¿Y qué más cuento? ¿Y cómo lo conecto? Se demoran un poquito más. Entonces se los dejo como de tarea, básicamente, para que le echen una practicadita a crear historias, ¿listo? A que ustedes se cuenten historias, vayan al pasado, jueguen con el pasado continuo, con esta expresión, con la otra, con quiero irme hacia adelante, ahora quiero devolverme, bueno, todo el cuento. ¿Listo, guys? Ready? Dudas, questions about it, difficulties, problems, anything?
No, teacher, is clear.
No, it's clear. Listo, guys. Entonces, pues nada, for the moment, that's all right. I hope that you have no questions. If you have questions, of course, as usual, you can let me know on WhatsApp. If you have problems with activities, the same, you can let me know on WhatsApp. The next week, we are going to have only one class. I think it's on Thursday. I am not sure. Ah, no, 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 mentiras. It's on Tuesday. Tuesday. Ready? It's on Tuesday, Tuesday the 6th. So see you there in class at 8 p.m., guys. Nothing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participation. I am sorry that I speak so much today, but the class required me to speak so much. So thank you for being here and for the participation, guys. Okay? Have a good weekend. Enjoy the holiday.
Thanks, teacher.
Teacher, see
Goodbye.
you.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
See
Goodbye.
you. Goodbye.